Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving into a pretty heavy topic today, but
Yep.
also I think really important. It's something that honestly kind of keeps me up at night sometimes.
Ooh, okay. I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
So we're looking at this article called The Paradox of Democracy, Self-Destruction from Within. And just that title, right, gets you thinking.
Yeah, no kidding. Self-destruction from within. Yikes. That's a scary thought for any system, let alone one we rely on for, well, freedom.
Right. And that's exactly what we're going to try to unpack today. This idea that the very things that make democracy strong can also be its undoing.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you. So where do we even start with a paradox like that?
Well, the article makes this point that at its heart, democracy relies on some pretty big ideals.
Mm-hmm.
Openness, trust, things like free speech, fair elections, that kind of stuff.
Right, to foundations.
Yeah, exactly. But, and here's the kicker, those very same principles, the ones we hold so dear, can actually be exploited to weaken democracy itself.
It's almost like building a fortress and then leaving the blueprints out in the open. Someone could use those blueprints to figure out how to break in.
Ooh, that's a good analogy.
Yeah.
And the article actually gives some concrete examples of this happening throughout history. One that really stood out to me was the rise of Hitler in Germany.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Chilling example.
Right, because he didn't, violently overthrow the government or anything. He was democratically elected.
And then systematically dismantled democratic institutions from the inside once he had that power. So insidious.
Exactly. And it's not just ancient history either. The article talks about Viktor Orban in Hungary.
Hmm.
He's been doing something kind of similar, right?
Oh, absolutely. Orban's a textbook case, unfortunately. He's been chipping away at these norms, judicial independence, freedom of the press, basically consolidating power in a way that makes it nearly impossible for him to be removed democratically.
It's almost like you don't even realize it's happening, right? It's not this big dramatic event. It's these gradual, subtle changes that add up over time.
Precisely. Death by 1,000 cuts. And, what's even more unsettling is that it's not just about, power-hungry individuals taking advantage of the system. It's also about how citizens can sometimes play a role in this, too.
Okay, yeah. Explain that one.
Well, think about it. When times are tough, when people are struggling economically or feeling scared or bombarded with, say, propaganda, they can become more willing to give up some of their freedoms in exchange for the promise of security.
Ooh, that's a tough pill to swallow. Like trading freedom for a sense of stability, even if that stability is, kind of illusory.
Right, and that's often the hook that these authoritarian figures use. They offer simple solutions to complex problems.
Which brings up a really big, kind of depressing question. Is democracy, inherently flawed? Are we just doomed to repeat this cycle over and over again?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. And the article doesn't shy away from it. It actually presents two different viewpoints.
Oh, lay 'em on me.
Okay, so on the one hand, some folks say, yep, this vulnerability is a fatal flaw. They argue that democracy is just too fragile, too easily manipulated. But then there's the other side,
Which says,
which says that this vulnerability is actually a necessary consequence of real freedom. If people are truly free, they have to have the freedom to make bad choices, even choices that might undermine the system itself.
okay, so it's a trade-off. We get freedom, but with the risk that we might screw it up.
Exactly, the double-edged sword of liberty.
So is there, any hope, or are we all doomed?
Well, the article doesn't leave us hanging. It talks about how we can work towards and this is a quote, self-correcting democracy.
A self-correcting democracy. Okay, I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
But how do we actually get there?
Well, it emphasizes a couple of key things.
Yeah.
One is having strong, independent institutions that can withstand political pressure. So, a robust judiciary, a free and independent press, that kind of thing.
Makes sense. Checks and balances, right?
Yep. And the other big thing is having a well-informed, engaged citizenry. People who are, aware of the potential pitfalls of democracy and who can hold their leaders accountable.
And who can, recognize the warning signs of democratic backsliding before it's too late.
Exactly. That's crucial. Because once things start to erode, it's really hard to turn back the clock.
So the takeaway here is, vigilance, right? We can't just assume that democracy will magically take care of itself.
Nope. It requires active participation, constant questioning, and frankly, a bit of healthy paranoia.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive. But before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought. If the health of a democracy really does depend on its citizens, what role are you going to play in safeguarding it? Food for thought. Thanks for listening, everyone.